We're here with Sam Guinn from SBIR Advisors. He's going to talk to us about SBIR, and I look forward to hearing what he has to say. Take it away.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, so it's good to meet you all. I'm Sam Guinn. I'm the founder of SBIR Advisors. Prior to this, I was a contracting officer in the Air Force. So my job was to buy things for special operations, and then after that, I moved to offensive cyber, and that's how I landed here in San Antonio. There's a lot of cyber activity here. So I was on the buying side for a long time, and one of the problems that we always had was we were losing an arms race, especially in cyber. Is like whoever has the newest, shiniest toy wins the cyber war, right? So it would take us 9 to 12 months to buy things, and in that time frame, like a new iPhone would come out and replace whatever exploit we were trying to take advantage of. And so we were constantly behind the 8 ball because the things we were buying were obsolete by the time we bought them. So I was very frustrated trying to get good tech to the warfighter and not being able to do that because of our processes. So I went out looking for ways that we could speed things up and get tech to the warfighters faster. And one of the programs I came across was SBIR. But I came across that because I wanted to work with startups, because I thought if anybody can save us from ourselves and help us, win this arms race, it's going to be these super fast, agile, innovative companies. And so went to go, to Black Hat and a couple of these industry conferences and asked them like, hey, why aren't you guys working with the Department of Defense? And a lot of them said, well, we don't know how. We struggle to know who the customer is, where they are, how to find them. And then once we find them, they tell us, hey, this is great, but I don't have any money. And so it's this challenge of like, okay, well, how do we find money to start working together? And this is where SBIR and STTR comes in. So has anybody heard of SBIR, STTR before? Okay, a few. Okay, cool. So it stands for Small Business Innovation Research Program, and the STTR is not a very good acronym. It stands for Small Business Technology Transfer Program. How that equates to STTR, I don't know. But it's virtually the same program. It's just that one requires a university or nonprofit partner. That's the STTR side. So we'll talk mostly about the SBIR piece today. So in SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research, this is a program that started back in the 80s. It was 1982, Congress created it, and they mandated that 3.2% of the total DoD budget has to go to, R&D budget, excuse me, has to go to small business. And so for the Air Force, that's about $3 billion, well, $1.2 billion, $3 billion for the entire Department of Defense, Department of War now. But it's about $1 billion for the Air Force, $2 billion for Space Force, so it's about $0.2 billion for Space Force. I think this is where I should probably lean on my slides for the data. But the point is, it's a large pot of money, and it's not set aside for any one requirement, right? So it's kind of like a colorless money, if you will, that it's not required to be for any kind of given program. We're able to kind of manipulate it for what we want to spend it on. And so this is great. So back when they started the program, though, there was only one kind of SBIR. It was called specific topic. And so if you're familiar with SBIR, you might have seen this, where every couple of months or so, they publish this long list of problems and requirements. And if you've looked through that laundry list, they're all super specific. Like, we need a lightsaber. It's got to be 3 feet long, 2 inches wide, cut through steel, all that. And if you're looking at that and you don't make lightsabers, you're like, well, how am I going to propose to this? But even if you do, you're competing against all the other companies that have similar solutions. So it turned into this race to the bottom. Who could provide the most ambitious, white paper, the most ambitious science project to solve this problem? And so also who could do it for less cost. So what that meant is a lot of these solutions that were getting awarded were too ambitious to actually become reality by the end of the SBIR program. So less than 1% of technology being acquired by SBIR was making it to the field, was making it to warfighters. It wasn't transitioning, getting to scale and going to production. And so around 2018, the Air Force said, all right, we need to change this, because this is a significant chunk of our budget. It's $1 billion a year that is going to science projects, but it's never making it out of the lab. How can we turn this into an acquisition program? And so what they did was they created the open topic. So now the open topic SBIR says that we don't know what our problems are. We have no idea. We want to see what you have. And so they allow you to take anything off the shelf that you're working on and push that requirement onto the DoD or the Air Force and say, we think this could help you. And they look at thousands of proposals, and it's everything from pillows, satellites, and everything in between. And they pick the most interesting technologies they think have a real use case. So this was a game changer for startups who now, instead of having to wait, perhaps years to see a requirement come out that matches their solution, they can now take technology that they're getting funded with investor dollars and go and try it and sell that to the DoD and push the requirement or push the solution rather than wait for a pull, right, from the Department of Defense. So that's really how we use the SBIR program now as a business development tool, because now you're able to go talk to customers inside the Department of Defense. And when you connect to those buyers and they tell you, these are my problems and I just don't have money, or you're pitching your solution to an airman and he says, gee, this is great, I wish I could use this, but I don't have any budget, you're able to say, that's okay, you don't need budget. We're going to go through the open topic and we're going to go get other people's money to fund it and start working with you now. So it kind of helps bridge the gap between today and next fiscal year when they actually do have budget. So it solves a bunch of customer problems. They're able to get commercial solutions that you've built today on a really fast contract. They're able to do it without their own budget, without any risk to their own schedule. So it's other people's money. It's not their funding. And it helps you because it comes with several benefits. One, of course, it's non-dilutive funding, and you get to propose the milestones. So you get to say, this is my work plan, and it can align with your commercial roadmap. So as you have these product development items that you need to knock down, you can have those funded with government research and development dollars. But two is it gives you all the data rights, all the IP. So normally if the government pays to develop something, they want to own it. But in this case, because it's the SBIR program, it's supposed to be a commercialization, kind of like a small business program, they want you to own all the IP. So 100% of the data rights that belong to you, whether it was funded by the government or out of your own expense, you keep it all. So if you built it for one squadron or unit, you're able to go next door and sell it to the next unit because you own the IP. And then finally, it gives you sole source rights. And this is one of the big ones. This is why the primes perk up and they care if a startup has a SBIR, because it's a very powerful justification to go direct and do a sole source contract. So normally if the government wants to solicit and go buy something, they have to put it out for bid and they have to get a bunch of submissions, RFP, proposals, excuse me. They have to look at all these proposals, evaluate them all, judge, which one's the best value, and then pick one. Well, there's several exemptions of why you could go direct, and you don't have to do that process, and that's good for you, right? Because you don't have to compete. You don't have to compete on price, and you can get it done a lot faster than doing this whole evaluation process. Well, there's several common known justifications, like if it's national security, like somebody's going to die if we don't award this thing, or if it's only one vendor or one source available, you're the only one that makes that's eligible. Maybe you're a service disabled veteran owned company, or a minority owned company, or a women owned company. They all give you ability to do sole source. But the problem with those exemptions is that they usually have a cap. So you can do sole source up to 20 million before you're not able to do it anymore. They have to compete it within that sector. So they're going to say, we're going to compete this requirement across multiple women-owned companies. And so there's still competition, it's just a smaller pool. With the SBIR program, there's no cap. There's no limit to how big that phase 3 contract, that sole source contract can be. And so it's a really powerful tool that stays with that product for the life of the product. So even if you become a large business, that solution that you want SBIR for still keeps all the sole source rights. And so this is why primes are interested in it, because they'll go in and they'll buy small businesses because they want their SBIR sole source rights, and they want to be able to sell solutions to the DoD without competition. And if they have a SBIR technology, they can do that. Even if SBIR technology is a small component, like let's say you make the propeller on the airplane, they can sell the whole airplane as sole source because that is a component of the solution. So there's no, for those familiar with contracting, there's no non-manufacturer rule as a part of that. So they can do, you could be also subcontract other companies through your sole source contract. So if you had a phase 3 and you wanted to do 1% or do a pass through and take 5% off the top of that contract, you could sub out 95% of the work. And normally that's not allowed in government, because they want, if they're going to do a small business set aside, they want the small business to do a majority of the work. In this case, you don't have to do that. So anyway, really good program. So what we do is SBIR Advisors is a team of 60 former acquisition officers from across the Department of War, Air Force, Navy, Army. We've won over $600 million for our clients since 2020 when we started. And we've partnered with over a dozen venture capital firms. So most of our clients come to us from VCs. And that's just where a majority of our pipeline is. We want to be invested in our clients. So we take company profit, and we're an actual partner, or we're an LP in those VC funds. So we take profit, put it back into the funds, because we want to be invested in our clients. So they do well, and we do our job right. They're not going to need consultants very long. They'll graduate us, and we want that to happen. If we want to celebrate that day that you graduate us, because if you don't need us, that means you're doing well, and we'll do well because we're invested in it. So that's how we partner with startups. Really what we do is we help with the business development. So we help connect you to the right buyers within the Department of Defense that would be most interested in your technology. So we look at the tech and we say, okay, these are the organizations that are probably most interested, and these are the people, the buyers, the decision makers inside of those organizations that you should be talking to. And so we kind of put together a BD target list, and you get to say, yep, sounds good, or no, I already know that guy, or whatever. But once we get you in the room and you're talking to that buyer, we run into the funding problem, and they say, gee, this is great. You've developed something really cool. I'm very interested in it, but I don't have any money. That's what we hear most often from government customers. And it's not that they don't have budget. They have very large budgets, but as you're seeing from like the government shutdown right now, they have to think far in advance about their budget. They have to forecast what their requirements are going to be next year to get permission to spend that money. So if you weren't on their radar last year, it's too late. If you're talking to them today, every dollar already has a name, and they're saying, hey, I don't have any room in my budget. Come back to me next fiscal year. I'll put you into next year's budget. And if you're Lockheed or you're Boeing and you can wait a year for a contract, then fine, that's great. But if you're a startup and you need money now, it's a problem. And that's where SBIR comes in, is we're able to tell them, hey, we don't need your funding. We can go get other people's money. We can tap into this SBIR budget, start working with you today, and bridge the gap between now and next fiscal year. Then, of course, we help with proposal writing, and then finally distribution. So once you are in there and you're working with a customer funded by SBIR, and you're building a relationship with that customer, they're adopting your technology. They're providing you feedback on what they'd like to see better. They get to the end of that SBIR budget, the end of the R&D money, and they're like, hey, I really like you guys. I want to continue working with you guys. And guess what? We're into next year now, so I have my own money. The next question is going to be, how do we transact? How do we do business? Because most contracting officers in the government are not familiar with working with startups. They've never done business with a very tiny company. And so you're probably not on the catalogs that they're used to using, like GSA, or they call them IDIQs, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts. You're not on there, so they don't know how to award to you. And so it's a little bit of a process of trying to get you onto those catalogs and make sure that they can find you. GSA is kind of like Amazon for the government. If I wanted to buy something as a contracting officer, I'd go to GSA eBuy and I'd type in what I was looking for, and it would show me a whole, multiple web pages worth of that kind of tech. So you want to make sure you're in there so that contracting officers can see you and they can find you and buy you, and do it quickly. But also, of course, the sole source option is the way you want to go. And once you've made connection to a customer, you want to try to push them that way. But sometimes they say, yeah, you've got sole source, but I don't know how to do sole source, and it might be much easier if I could buy you off this other contract. And so you want to have that menu of options when you talk to a customer. Here's all the ways we could do business. And that's just one of them. So I'll skip a few of this, but one thing that I want to talk to you about is, well, I'll say that this playbook that we've developed over the last 5 years is come from working with a lot of companies. And so we've seen how using SBIR can put you on a trajectory to go from $0 with government to 10+ million in government. So what it starts with is usually in year one, the goal is to win 1 to 2 million in SBIR. And to do that, you might have to apply to 5 to 6 million to make sure you win 1 million. But it's just kind of the way the competition works. And so you want to submit every opportunity you can. And then once you hit that 1 million, now you're in there and you're working with the customer. You built a relationship. You can start to get your feet on the ground and you got a foot in the door. The next year, you want to go after things called TAC-FIs. They're called tactical funding increases. That's where you can extend work that you won on your first SBIR. So your SBIR phase 2 is $1.25 or $2 million. Well, you get to the end of that, and maybe the customer says, "Gee, you're not quite there development-wise. Like, I need you to get a little bit further along in your product readiness." Or they say, "I didn't do my job and I didn't budget for you, so I still need a little bit more time." Well, great. You can go back to the SBIR program and apply for TAC-FI funding, which is an extension of your phase 2 up to a year and up to $2 million to extend work you were doing on a prior contract. Now, the cool thing about TAC-FI is it's a matching program. So in order to apply for TAC-FI, you've got to show that you have money from either an investor or from a government customer. So they can count outside investment or government funding. But for every dollar in investment you get from an investor, you can apply for $1 in TAC-FI, up to 2 million. So what we found is that really helps when you're talking to investors to try and get them to, take interest in you and say, "Hey, for every, you write me a $100K check, I can go get $100K in a contract with the government right now. You give me 2 million, I can double it right now." And so that really kind of helps grease the skids for those investments. That's usually now you're into 4 million in revenue with the government. You probably need to be thinking about lobbying and going into appropriations, because if you're relying on your government customer to do the budgeting and actually go get money to work with you, you're kind of on a three-legged stool there. So if they retire or they take a DRP package, or maybe they PCS, which is called a permanent change of station, they move to a different base or something, you lose one of those legs of the stool and then you're back to square one. So to kind of to get around those risks of, like, I don't want my customer to leave, I want him to actually budget for me for next year, you can do the budgeting for them by working with the lobbyists and getting appropriations money. So you can actually go work the Capitol Hill and get your congressman to add funding into that program for your technology, and then you can basically drop money into the lap of your customers. For every $1 that you get in appropriations money, you can award that on a phase 3 contract. That's the sole source contract that we were talking about earlier. And for every $1 in appropriations, you can get matching funds through what they call strat-fi, so strategic funding increase. So strategic funding increase starts where the TAC-FI left off, right? So this was a $2 million contract. Strat-Fi starts at 3 million and can go up to 30 million. So we work with a lot of space companies, and $2 million doesn't get them off the launch pad. So they need a lot more money, and that's kind of where Strat-Fis come in. So if you run this playbook, you'll look like the rest of our clients who have done this successfully. So we worked with Anduril Capella Space. It took them a little bit longer to break that 10 million in government revenue. It's because they did the steps out of order. So Anduril began lobbying first. They thought they could buy their way into the government, so they started working with lobbyists. They'll tell you they regret that. They spent a lot of money in the first 2 years, and they didn't have a customer to put that money anywhere. So they figured that out. Their first $1 of revenue from government came from SBIR in 2019. I was lucky to have a part in that. And then helped them get to phase 2, and then they reached strat-fi and appropriations, so they broke 30 million at year 5. More recent clients followed the playbook exactly. They did the milestone. They did all the milestones in order and the proper steps. And we were able to go from $0 in government to 30 inside of 36 months, which I know that's not fast for commercial, but that is lightning fast for government. To go from zero to program like that is really good. So that's the playbook we run over and over again. I will stop there. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I'd love to take questions.
Got a lot of questions, but I guess I can start with, so you guys help Andrew reach where they are right now.
Microphone. Yeah, so
You guys help Andrew reach where they are right now.
So Anduril quickly outgrew the 500 employee count, so they're not eligible for SBIR anymore. But yeah, I got to work with them in 2019 on a phase 1 and phase 2, and then they graduated us and they went on to win some other stuff. But Colby Carrier, he was the, I think it was the COO under Palmer Luckey for 5 years. Colby left that company last year and went to a new company called Aetherflux, which is, I don't know if you've heard them, but Robinhood, the investing app, that co-founder created a space company called Aetherflux, hired Colby out of Anduril, and the first thing Colby did is call us up, and we're now working with Aetherflux. So I'm excited about that.
Can I ask another question? So I have a really specific question. I work in intelligent transportation systems and connected vehicles. I have some ideas for things that are a little bit more future thinking that I think my current circumstance leadership doesn't see that leap forward, but I think a startup route would be more applicable. You're talking about the Department of War, which is formerly DoD, but DoD also had different factions like ARPA, and which is also spun off into ARPA-E for energy and now ARPA-I for infrastructure. Yep. Does this path lead to those avenues? Like, can I reach ARPA-I or ARPA-E through this, or is it specifically for war?
So what we primarily focus on is Department of War, because Department of War has 50% of the total SBIR budget, but there are 11 agencies that participate in SBIR. ARPA-H is one of them, ARPA-E. DARPA has SBIR budgets, which they're DoD technically. So, but you've got NIH, NSF, Department of Energy, DHS, like they all have their own SBIR budgets, and we do go after those. They play by the same rules, but we just all our BD network is in the Department of War, so that's where we're focused. But really, the open topics were created based on a model that was proven at In-Q-Tel. So if anybody's familiar with In-Q-Tel, the CIA and the NSA have a VC arm called In-Q-Tel, which invests in companies that they think would be really helpful for CIA and NSA. And they did what they call work programs. So they give you a $2 million contract. You deliver on that contract. They also get equity as part of that arrangement. That is the model that AFWERX, the Air Force organization, used to create the open topic SBIR. But we do a lot of work with In-Q-Tel. Yes, sir.
So as a business, what are some of the criteria you're looking for to qualify who you would be working with out of applicants and people coming to you with interest?
Yeah, so great question. So really the eligibility criteria for SBIR is you have to be less than 500 employees, and you have to be majority owned by U.S. citizens or other small businesses that are U.S. citizens. So I'd say that because most VCs qualify as a small business because they're less than 500 employees and they're U.S. based. So you can have 50% ownership and still apply if you're owned by investors. But so you have to be U.S. owned, have less than 500 employees, and any work that's done has to be done in the United States unless you have a waiver. But those are rare. They do them for if you want to work like on an Air Force base in Germany, they'll give you a waiver to do it over there. But normally it's U.S. based. So that's kind of the great thing. Hey, good to see you. That's the great thing about this program is like you can really get into it at a very early stage because what they look for is defense need and technical merit. And so if you have both of those things, you say this solves a big problem for the Department of War, and you can prove technical merit, then they really don't care what size company you are. Like, so there's a lot of companies, clients that we work with that are very small. They're 1 to 2 man shops, and they're able to get into the door through this and then scale quickly. But it does help to have venture money. It does help to have investors because they look at that as validation of your technology. So I said VC and investor, but also if you have revenue. So if you're not selling equity, but you're selling product, if you have revenue, that also is a way to validate that, hey, your technology has merit. Someone has written a check for it, whether through equity or sale. And so that kind of validates that you can deliver on what you're saying that you're going to deliver on. So that is a strength, but you don't have to have those things to win. Cool. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I'm in a startup and we're developing a product for people who suffer from PTSD. Would that be something that I know that's not for war, but it's for? Would that be something that would apply to this?
Yeah. So there's kind of a shakeup going on in the Department of War right now, in that they created the Defense Health Agency. And then basically the Army, Navy, and Air Force said, okay, everything medical, everything hospital, they should pay for it. DHA, DHA should pay for it, Defense Health. And so we saw a little bit of time there where like it was harder for health products or clinical products to go to the Army or Air Force and sell into them, unless you had like a battlefield application. If you belonged like on an ambulance or in a Blackhawk or in a medic bag, they cared about it. But if you were in a hospital setting, they wanted you to, go to DHA. That is now shifting back the other direction. So they haven't, that kind of, there's a lot of plates in the air now, but cool fact is that the DHA the director of their SBIR program is here in San Antonio. He offices out of Velocity, Texas, just down the road here. Jeremy Nelson there. So he would be a great guy to go talk to about what you have. And he could tell you, yeah, we're interested in this or not. And then, he might be able to direct you to who could. The VA is, they've got a large budget. They don't have any R&D budget. And so they don't have a SBIR program. However, they do award these phase 3 sole source contracts. So what we've seen is we're able to go get medical products, funded here in Army or Air Force, and then we're able to go sell it to the VA. Yes, sir.
My biggest problem right now is going from like 0 to 0.5.
Okay.
Like not even 1, because what I'm finding is that I'm not a product company. There is a product, but I'm not a product company. The product is essentially like a beachhead strategy to show them this is the process.
Right.
So when I go to like create like a SBIR proposal, it's designed around products and it's not really what I'm trying to sell.
Yeah. So yeah, for everyone online, the question was like, I'm not a product company, is SBIR for me, basically, kind of. So the answer is yes, but it kind of changes your approach. And I actually like working with services companies because instead of me having to go to a customer and try to push a widget on them, I can go to a customer and say, what is on your unfunded list? What is on your backlog that you wish you had that you don't have those features today or whatever? And they'll tell you, they're like, yeah, I would have XYZ if I had the money. And then as a not a product company, you can say, well, that maybe that piece of your requirement is in my strike zone. Like I can build a custom solution to solve that problem, and I can get it funded through SBIR. So you basically productize their need. What you're delivering is services, right? You're delivering IT services in that example, but what you're proposing is the outcome, the end solution. So the other way to do it as not a product company is to look at the specific topics. So the specific topics are still there, and every month they publish a list of problem statements that they have, and you can look through that list and see if any of those interest you. You can apply to those, and that's easier to do if you're a services company than if you're a product company trying to force your tool into that, your round peg in that square hole kind of thing. So yeah. Yes, sir.
Sam, I just stepped out. It sounded like the answer to that question might have been partially what my question is. But my question was, do you know what percentage of of the like phase one awards, for example, are open topic versus the
So the question was, what percentage of the awards are open topic versus specific topic? That is a really good question. I think like last year they awarded 700 phase one awards. I believe, I think around 500 of those were open topic, 200 were specific topic. That's a WAG though. I don't have that right in front of me, but that's kind of the probably percentages you're looking at. It's about 80-20, 80% open, 20% specific. That's because the specific topics are larger. So they're usually in the 150 to 200,000 range versus the open topic awards. They're like 75,000, but they're shorter in length. And so a phase one award, the scope of a phase one contract is you propose your solution. You say, here, this is what we do. And they say, cool, go prove it. Go validate that this is actually needed in the Department of Defense. Here's $75,000 in 90 days. So your job during that 90 days is not to create a prototype. It's to go find a customer and find someone who will raise their hand and say, yeah, I need this and I want to work with you. And if you find them, then they can sponsor you to go to phase two, which starts at $1.25 million and it can go up to $1.9 million. But that's when now you're actually getting paid to do work with the customer you identified and deliver a prototype. Or it does, and I'm using that generally. You don't have to deliver anything under a phase two. You are the master of your fate there. So you own all the milestones and you can tell them what you're going to deliver. And a lot of times we recommend to clients, don't get ahead of your skis here. Don't promise something you're not sure you can deliver on because you won't get paid if you don't deliver it. So deliver instead like a report that says, here's how far we got with the time and money you gave us. And as long as you deliver the report, you're meeting your contractual obligations, you're getting paid. Yes, sir.
Second question would be, we were working on a phase two. We have a software company. So this is the first training. So we were working on a phase two right during COVID, about 2020, right at 2021. But then got into commercial work and enterprise stuff. Stayed out of this role for a long time. With all the recent, I know that this administration has a big focus on empowering the warfighter and building great tools. But with the DOGE cuts too, have there been any significant sort of material changes to the program?
Yeah. So a really good question. I'm glad you asked it because the question was like, has anything with the current administration with DOGE or any of the shakeups on the Hill affected the SBIR program? The answer is yes. So though DOGE didn't cut any funding for SBIR, what it did is it cut a lot of personnel, and so it slowed down some timelines. And so where we used to see awards in 30 days, now it's closer to 90 days that we see an award. And so from the time you put a proposal and the time you get a contract, so it's had those impacts. But more recently, the government shutdown just says no new contracts until we get government funded again. So today, as I'm standing here, there's no SBIR program, but everybody knows the government's going to come back, and the SBIR reauthorization and extension is in the bill. So. Yes. Sorry?
The NDAA.
Yep.
About a week ago. So in the past, is that like usually when that goes through, is it like a month before the allocation happens for efforts?
So the NDAA is like policy. It's like the authorization to spend, but then you need the budget. The appropriations is the actual money to spend. So you can look at the NDAA and see how they're going to spend the money, but they don't have the money yet until the budget is passed. And so there's a lot of good things in that NDAA, which I'm excited about. It increased the budget for Defense Innovation Unit, which if you haven't met those guys, they're up in Austin. They've got now over $1 billion to spend on defense innovation. And so that really good stuff for them. A lot of other really good things in the NDAA that we're excited about. But big opportunities for small business because there's a lot of shift in what we're seeing in Ukraine and what's in Gaza is that these kind of like really low cost solutions are making a difference on the battlefield. And so the more agile startups can really solve some of those problems faster than the big primes can. in a lot of ways better and cheaper. So there's big emphasis on that in the NDAA. I'm not sure I answered your question completely, but yep. Okay.
Normally, is it normally it's kind of predictable.
Yeah.
With everything right now, I'm assuming maybe a month or 2 longer.
No, it depends. So the question was like with the shutdown and everything and the delays, is it gonna, what do we expect there? I've been through 3 reauthorizations now. I've been through a bunch of shutdowns since 2013, but I'm not real worried about it. I think like some people are saying that this might last until Thanksgiving, that the government will be shut down, but we spent $2 million on lobbyists last year. We've got a pretty good read on where the bill is, and like we didn't really need a long continuous resolution because the full bill is almost done. So the continuous resolution was a 45-day, like let's extend it for 45. We're now 15 days into that 45 days, so they don't really need a lot of time to get the full bill done, and it might just accelerate the full bill. So they'll skip CR and go full bill. Is a real possibility. So I'm not too worried about it. Air Force and AFWERX kind of predicted that, hey, there's going to be some infighting. So they advertised that announcements for phase 1s would be in December, and we're still expecting that to be the case. So if you submitted back in August, you're going to find out your results probably mid-November and then awarded in December. Unless there's Congress doesn't do their job. But yeah. Yes, sir.
How do we work?
Yeah, just reach out to me. So I've got business cards, but my email is sam@SBIRadvisors.com. Reach out. We've got a number of ways we can work together through either our full like white glove service, we do it all for you kind of approach, or we have a DIY like light approach where you get all the templates and instruction videos and stuff like that. You do it yourself. Or we have cohorts where we'll actually have companies join and do it as a group project kind of thing in partnership with some of the local universities. All right, cool. Thank you, guys.
Sam, thank you for your time today,
Yeah.
being here. A small token of appreciation.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
And then this afternoon session has been canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. So we're concluding our program for today. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Put it together.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
One more.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Look up your mic.
Yep. Oh, I forgot I had a mic.
Yeah, it's very nice. Thank you.